What up? Welcome back to the Urban Misfit podcast. I got what I hope to be an awesome episode for you guys with my man, Crashed Bandit, Kyle. And if you guys don't already, please hit the link below real quick. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel and show him some love. He be putting out the edits and getting the whole Port City Wheelie crew up on there and shit. So show him some love.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So I'm sure everybody can tell from the thumbnail and the title that this is about disc brakes versus V-brakes. And I don't know. I'm not like trying to say one is better than the other. I just want to talk the pros and cons. And I thought you would be a great person to do it with, just because you've been riding. You were on the disc brake, and now you're on. What are those? Those are U brakes, huh? It's like a V brake kind of.
Yeah.
So, it's been a minute since I've been on the disc. So why don't you talk about the disc brake, since it's been a little sooner for you?
Yeah. So for me, when I started wheeling, the most important thing was obviously braking. Because I was totally scared of looping out and going back. Long before I got on the actual bicycles, I was doing wheelies on a motorcycle, which I had no business doing because I had no understanding of balance point or brake control or any of that. And I wrecked a couple times doing stupid stuff on it. So I knew before I even got on the bicycles that stopping power and the ability to grab that rear brake when you needed it was most important. So when I was looking for a bike initially, I looked specifically for a bike with a disc brake, knowing that it just had more braking power that I was looking for. And so I was looking around on the internet, it's seen a bunch of SE bikes, saw the kids that were doing that stuff online. Was looking at prices going, oh, dang, I don't know that I can afford this one right out the gate, so I'm going to have to find something else. Found the framed and literally bought that specifically because it had the disc brake.
Nice.
So for me, that's kind of where that whole deal started. And initially, I loved it. That instant brake power that you get on disc brakes, I think is really critical for new riders, especially when you're a little bit afraid of tipping back further. You want to know that brake's going to save you. So having that instant stop, I thought was really beneficial.
How are the stock disc brakes on the framed 29er?
It wasn't bad. The mechanical brakes they're mechanical.
They're meant to be upgraded to hydros.
Generally, yeah. I would say that's probably the best direction to go.
Yeah.
I would say that the mechanical disc brake is still probably a little bit more of like an instant stop than what you would feel on like a U brake or a V brake or just a standard rim brake. And I think a lot of that has to do with the pads that they use. It's a pad, the pads are similar to what you would get on a hydro. It's just, a mechanical action rather than the hydro action.
Right. Actual like pistons. So as far as like the disc brakes go for me, I kind of like went that direction too, because I came from like the motorcycle world also, and like wheeling Harleys and shit.
Yeah.
So I had the Redline, the RL275. That was like the first disc brake bike that I got. And dude, I put work in on that thing, and like that I actually had the mechanical brake on there for quite some time before I upgraded to the hydro. And I upgraded to like the cheap like $70 Shimano, whatever the hell it is. I don't know what the model is.
I think that's probably the same one that I got on the framed, actually.
Yeah, it worked great. But the reason why I upgraded is because the mechanical brakes will not always save you. Maybe if you're like, the younger kids and stuff, you probably have better odds of running a mechanical one longer. But I got to a point where I've slipped out and like full clinch on the brake. I have a picture of it. If I can find it, I'll slap it on the screen. Of like, dude, reverse scorpion, dog. Like, was going at 12 and like tried to drop my feet off and catch myself, but just my toes hit the ground. My knees were still bent, so I just landed on my knees, bro, and the bike just rolled out in front of me. And I like, oh man, it smoked my back, dude. Like, it was not fun. So like the next day, I went like sore back and everything, bro, into the bike shop and bought hydraulic brakes because I was like,
You're like,
never,
that's
dude,
never
I'm
gonna
never
happen
getting back on this
again.
bike until I get hydraulic brakes, bro. Straight up.
That's all funny. Yeah,
Bro.
that was kind of the decision that I made as well. After a couple loop outs on that mechanical brake, I just realized, yeah, it didn't quite have what I was looking for as far as stopping power. I mean, it definitely was a far better improvement over some of the V brakes that I had in the past on bikes. So from that standpoint, I definitely loved it. But I was looking for something that would insta stop, if I started tipping back too far.
Right. Yeah, the hydros though, man. If you guys have discs or are thinking about getting disc brakes, yeah, go hydros all the way.
Yeah,
Because even like the
that's
$70
definitely I
set,
think the
bro,
one
was
upgrade you
was
have to
good.
do. Yeah, yeah,
Me,
you don't have to go all out. I mean, Shimano makes a ton that are super expensive, that are great. I think if you're doing awesome downhill runs, but I think for what we do, most of the lower end brakes have plenty of stopping power, and you're gonna be just fine with it.
yeah, because if you guys aren't really like aware of how like the disc brake calipers actually work, like on the hydraulic discs and stuff, and why there's like such a big range. It's usually typically because they have multiple pistons that stop. So like inside the caliper, for one, on the mechanical brake, it only has one side. So like you have a brake
Yeah,
pad that's basically just a base brake pad, and then you have one that actually pushes into the disc. So it has a single mechanical piston motion, whereas the hydraulics, even the $70 ones, is dual. So I mean they come
yeah.
together. So the disc just stays there, and the pistons actually break on it, and then they come up with multiple. So they have 4 and 6 piston brakes. They get pretty out there, but not super necessary, you know.
Capping a bike, yeah, that seems like an unreasonable amount of stopping power. Unless I
Yeah,
mean, really, unless you're bombing down some big hill. I can imagine there's
mountain
some
bike stuff.
places.
Yeah, different
Yeah,
story.
right. Or I mean, maybe if you want to hit some of the San Francisco hills, yeah, have
That's
some
a good
fun with it.
point too.
I
Yeah,
guess.
I guess. Yeah, more than a single or I guess they're dual piston. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're considered
usually.
dual piston is like the baseline. That's a lot of stopping power, and it's just the fact that you have them coming together. That's like the main difference from the mechanical stuff, and where you get more bite. You know.
Yeah.
Also, you it's a lot easier on the disc itself if you have them aligned properly.
There's a few other benefits too. If your rim gets warped, you don't really have to worry about the disc being an issue or stopping power
Oh yeah, yeah,
being
yeah,
an issue. So, I mean, there's a few benefits there. Also, there's some downsides too. If you've got a hydro and that line gets pinched or you have some kind of problem where it leaks mid-ride and you lose pressure on it, you've lost all stopping power for that ride. I mean, you're pretty much
yeah,
done. So
yeah.
that's one of the downsides. It rarely happens, although we did have shoot I think Biggs, hard body Biggs in Stockton. Whatever happened, he ended up pulling that brake and it locked on the rotor and just ripped the rotor right off the bike. He had to go down and
What?
like grab a brand new disc for it that day, and yeah, we had to put it back together. Yeah, I
Damn.
think I have a picture of it on my Instagram and putting it back together. Crazy.
Damn. Yeah, that's a great point actually about the hydros. It's never happened to me, but I've been on a ride and I know that it's happened. I can't remember who it was exactly, but anyways, they looped out or something or crashed or something happened, and when they went down, their lever, bro, broke the
Yeah.
plunger, which caused a leak have no
Yep.
brakes for the
Yep.
rest of the day. And he was just like, bro, I want to say it was like one of the younger kids too. I was like, damn, that
Yeah, that's
sucks.
rough.
Which
There's no repairing that one on mid ride. I mean, you
no,
can do a lot of fixing of the V brakes or U brakes mid ride, but
yeah.
if you bust a hydro mid ride, you're kind of done, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're reduced to peg wheelies.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah, which aren't bad, I guess. If
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
into that thing.
at least you can still do those. But you ever have any alignment issues like with your disc brakes?
Uh, Once I think when I was doing a swap initially of the I was putting on the maxi hookworms, and I think when I was initially putting that back on, I had some issues with alignment. And the only reason why I could tell was because the brake started making a ton of noise out of nowhere. That's usually the telltale sign that you've got an issue with anything disc related. Is if that thing starts squeaking a bunch or making any kind of weird noises, you've got some alignment issues, and you should probably stop and realign that thing.
Right. That's probably like one of the more annoying, but well, I guess we'll get to that. I figure we just talk about the disc brakes, the pros and cons, our feelings about them, and then we'll move to the V brakes or rim brakes basically, and
Sure.
do the same there. So the disc brakes have their own like set of like honking problems, or can. So like
Yep.
the pads that Damon has on the monster quad that he owns from like last year or whatever, they're like $60 pads, and I want to say they're like ceramic or something crazy. But dude,
Oh
talk
shoot.
about stopping power. Those things stop, dude. Like they were almost too. They were sharper probably than any brake I feel like I've ridden.
Oh
Um,
wow. Yeah.
so and I can't remember what he said. They were probably like a road bike pad or something. But um, yeah. So I from like just the regular pads that I bought, I feel like they glaze over, or they can glaze over a lot easier than like a rim brake
Yeah.
pad.
That's common. I've had some issues with reviews on pads when I was initially buying them, trying to find decent ones that I thought were going to work, and I ended up just sort of reverting back to the Shimano ones because I had the best luck with them. And for me, I always went with the with like the resin pads because like the reviews on the metallic ones were usually that they were a bit noisier, but that instant bite stop was a little bit nicer. And for me, that wasn't quite what I was looking for. I wanted something a little bit spongier that had a little bit more action as I was squeezing the lever in. To sort of help me drop back a little better. I didn't want it to feel so sort of jumpy coming back down as soon as I clicked the lever. So I opted for a pad that was a little bit smoother, had a little bit more sort of squish to it, I guess is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, my preference for like brake bite has definitely changed from like the beginning when I was learning how to like get into the wheelies and stuff. I used to like to have that like cushion rub zone, like where you pull the lever, like it's a lot easier to achieve that with cool stops, which I don't run anymore. Hate them, hate cool stops. But
That's funny.
but yeah, and now it's like, dude, I like them sharp. Like my dude, if you squeeze the lever on my bike, I mean, it moves like the eighth of an inch or something before like the pads are touching.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I like them real sharp, but in the beginning,
That's funny
I
because
didn't like that.
that's actually a swap for me. Like I went from liking that really sort of sharp action when I started to now I actually kind of like that I've got a little bit more sort of squish play with those cool stops like that. I don't know, I don't 100% know like what's changed there for me. But I don't know. It's been a sort of interesting switch. I think switching between the two brake styles now that I've had some time to really work it on the Sunday.
Yeah, I think at least for me personally, like with that preference of when I liked them squishy like that, I think it was because I felt like it helped me focus more on like control, because you can like have your finger pulled and the brake is on to like an extent. I don't know how much is actually touching, but I mean you can personally feel like once you've get to that point that it's like
Yeah,
how far back you can go, you know what I mean, before you really got to like pull the brake.
yeah,
So you're kind of like constantly in like a rub zone. I don't know. That's why I used to like it, because it just felt like I could focus on more than just like the balance of the wheelie, and like that was like when I was learning like leg overs and things like
yeah,
that. And
yeah,
now I don't use the brake hardly as much at all. Like, and on the goon, like the balance point's just so different that uh, it's easy to ride around and just barely even just like dink, and just that's all I need for my brake to like level out, because of the balance points. Just I don't know how to explain it, but I
that's
guess.
been something that I've been more focused on lately. Yeah, like for me, because I've been trying to pick up one handers. Like lately, that's been the trick that I've really been working on. And so most of one-handers takes a significant amount of body positioning to make sure that you're balancing with your body and not your arms.
Right.
The more you balance with your arms, technically the lower the front wheel is going to be. You're going to be fighting it a lot more. So you got to get it to the point where it's up a little higher. You're balancing with your body. And so that to me has been, I think probably why I like it a little softer. I think having like that initial sort of softer break gives me a little bit more time to think about where my body can be, and then kind of fix it right now, as I'm sort of working on those tricks. So yeah, I think that's been sort of it's probably a lot to do with the tricks that I'm doing right now. Uh, Determines how much breaking or what kind of breaking style I like.
Yeah, yeah, I feel it. On to the other brakes, your new brakes.
Yeah.
So, my general opinion around disc brakes, anyways, just to kind of like, I guess, sum that up for a second, is I haven't ridden on a disc in a while, but I do remember when I was riding a disc, not thinking of like how I could go back to a V brake. I guess just put it that way. Yeah, so V brakes or rim brakes, I guess is probably a better description for it.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure what the difference is between a V brake and a U brake, actually.
Uh,
Never actually had that described to me.
Yeah, so I mean, the U brake typically is one that like use around like the framing of the brake arm goes around the tire itself, and then like most of the times they'll have like the two ties that come around like the seat down tube, the seat tube that a single cable pulls on, because that's how your bike's set up, right?
It's yeah, two arms, single cable, and then it like use across the top of the
Yeah,
tire. Yeah.
yeah. So that was like I don't know. I remember those being popular back like when I was a kid riding, but I think
Yeah.
they're bulldog brakes. I want to say,
I
yeah.
don't know what I'm saying.
But as far as the difference in those, I'm not really sure, actually.
Yeah, between like maybe it's just overall pull power. I'm not even sure. I think
You know something? It may be a sturdier arm design because it crosses all the way over. You know what I'm saying?
interesting. Yeah.
Versus like because if you think about it, the V brakes sit on posts and then they're like this long, and all of
Yeah.
the torque is on one end. And when the brake hits right here, you know what I mean? It's like wants to pull it this way or that way, whichever way it's mounted on the bike. But versus the U brake is kind of like the old school Ford front axle design where it crosses over like that.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't taken a lot of time to like pay attention to that one.
I've
I
never really
know.
thought about the difference between those before. It's interesting.
Yeah, I've never really thought to look at. I thought most of them were like old school, like cantilever style brakes that, and then went to whatever I've got on there now.
I'm riding V brakes right now. I have just whatever stock brakes come on the throne, except for my lever. I guess this is probably a good topic to bring up too. But the lever, I'm running a paw lever that I got. I think it's a mountain bike set though because it's different than anybody else's paw levers that I ever see because mine's like bigger. Because it came in a set with a left and a right.
Mm.
And my chick Tia, she's left-handed and she rides with the left hand brake. So I was like, damn! And it was only like $120 for the set, and I think it's like $120 each normally. If you buy like there's the right hand lever. So I was like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna do that. So me and her got matching levers.
That's pretty good deal.
Yeah, yeah. It's easy to justify and bring home.
So does she actually run her rear brake on the left side?
Yeah.
That's what I do, but not because I'm left-handed, just because I like motorcycles. So that's how I started braking. I always thought like I was gonna switch back to motorcycles at some point. So like my whole initial setup and brain was like, all right, just put it on the left side because that's how it's gonna be as soon as you get on a stunt bike. And so I just kept rocking it that way the whole time. I even learned with my middle finger so that my brain would automatically transition to it. I wouldn't have to think about it. Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's funny you say that because I literally was just thinking about that. I'm like, man, I kind of like am interested almost in switching my lever to the left side because of the motorcycle thing for one, but two is like I was just got done with that video. and all like with all the dudes from London and shit. So they're all rocking their shit on the left. And I'm thinking to myself, like the
Yeah.
motorcycle thing. I'm like, well, every time I jump on Tia's bike, bro, I can lift it up and just wheelie away left-handed, anyways. So,
Hmm.
um, I just feel like it would change up. Really, what it would allow me to do, to be totally honest, the only reason I want to do it is because if I had the brake on the left, bro, I could do hand drags. If I got to the point where I could wheelie smooth like I do now, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
that for me is like the comfortable motion for some weird reason. Um,
Oh, really?
I don't know why. Yeah, I hate it. I hate that pulling the right because that's like motors. That's like the Harley side that you would drag from. You know?
Yeah, that was my whole thought process. So I just initially swapped like on my first bike before I even got the framed. I had like some retrospect bike that I don't know. I think I bought it some. I don't even remember which shop I got it at. Um, but it was, I mean, it wasn't really built for anything that I was looking to do. And, but I had swapped it to the left hand side initially thinking, oh, I'll get used to rocking it like that because my motorcycle brakes were set up that way anyways. And I didn't want to get confused when I was riding it anyways. And so when I figured, oh, I'm gonna actually get serious and I'll start wheeling, and I got the framed bike, I just continued the trend and swapped it to the left hand side, and just went with it.
Helps for filming too to have your right hand free, especially if you're right-handed.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah, it
sure.
allowed me to pull out my phone a lot, like especially early on when I was still worming pretty hard. I could get a lot of the shots of the Port City Wheelie Crew kids going hard, with my right hand, totally available to film, with my phone or whatever I had. Made it nice.
Oh yeah, V brakes though. It's just like I said when I had the disc brakes. I felt like how could I go back to V brakes? Like I semi feel that way now, but like I'm actually been wanting to get a bike with disc brakes, and obviously like Throne they're coming out with DZ's Dagoon XL, so and that's a disc brake, so I'm juiced for that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Who didn't Vegas do a Vegas pedal blocks? I think did a disc brake swap on a Throne.
conversion, that's where it all started, bro.
Yeah.
I'm very very convinced that like Kyle's video is the reason why every single Throne that has a disc brake on it has a disc brake on it, like or
Yeah.
goon.
Before I bought the Sunday, when I was sort of looking at other bikes to buy, but I mean that was one of the considerations was purchasing a Throne because I knew about that conversion kit and figured it might be an easy thing for me to do. And thought, yeah, I'll do it. And I think Big Apple E ended up doing the same thing, setting
O
it up on
blocks
his.
too.
And yeah, okay, yeah. So a lot of those guys ended up setting it up and liked it, and it worked for them. So I was like, yeah, shoot, that might be the way to go.
Yeah, because realistically, like that conversion kit for a wheelie bike was, I mean, it's not like 100%, but I mean, as far as it goes, it's 100%. The only reason I say it's not is because if you happen to be braking while you're going backwards, it's gonna try and unthread itself. But like in the wheelie world, like when
Yeah,
the hell are you ever doing that?
yeah. Unless you're riding fixed, it's about the only people that I see doing backwards wheelies.
Which when you're riding fixed, they don't ride with brakes. So, yeah, so that's why I'm like, man, for the wheelie shit, bro, that's like pretty good upgrade, like 100%. I mean, as far as reliability wise, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yep. Shout
Yeah,
out to
I
Kyle.
mean, I've trusted my disc brake. Look, early on. I thought that thing was just amazing, especially for learning on. I really liked it. And so when I was thinking about switching bikes, I was like, well, I think I'm gonna have to do this. I wanted it. I was gonna be, missing it if I didn't have it. And actually, what convinced me that I was going to be okay without it was going out on Big Blue. Damon let me borrow the blue Big Ripper that he has. I forget what year it is, 2014 maybe. Um, and I wheelied that thing and was like, oh yeah, I guess the rim brakes with like cool stops aren't so bad. I could probably do this and rock it all right. And so I just went out and bought the Sunday and figured I just rock it as is. So.
Yeah, I've been rocking the V brakes for a minute, and I've like developed a lot of new tricks around like using the V brakes because they do hit different. It's like they hit different. Mine hit so hard, like I mean, it stops is just as hard as a disc brake will. The way I have it set up, however, it's like I said, it's like the type of pads that I'm using and the lever. Um, I don't have like fancy brake arms because I'm as long as like the retentioner things on the brake arms still got tension on them, I don't feel there's any reason to upgrade brake arms, in my opinion, unless you like are looking to upgrade the look. But
Yeah,
because if that shit still works, it's going to be the same as virtually almost any other brake arm, except for the fact of if you upgrade, like you gotta be careful that certain shit doesn't clear hookworms.
yeah,
Just so you guys know, keep that in mind. But
yeah,
I've had I've had some times with the V brakes. The major thing that like is the major downside of rim, or I don't know if the U brakes do it, but from my experience in V brakes is the honking, bro. The honking problem, when that occurs, it's like the most annoying thing ever, bro. And especially like
yeah.
the goons with the hydro dip wheels tend to have an issue with that. And damn, like you can make them not do it. I've done it. It's just annoying, that sound, bro. Like, and like
Yeah.
especially when you're wheeling, it like totally gives away. Like it's like gives away when you're using your brake, and it makes it sound like you're not going as smooth, and just kind of ruins the
Uh,
effect.
yeah, it can a bit. I've noticed that like the cool stops on the Sunday, like they haven't been too bad. And like for me, I like the cool stops. I know you're not quite the fan of them, but for me, they've been great so far. I didn't even actually try the stock brakes on the Sunday. I'm sure they were probably great, but I mean, like you said, it is possible to set up a V brake setup to hit as hard as a disc brake. A lot of it just takes, a little bit more time, a little bit more care and maintenance to like keep it going. That's like I think 98% of making sure that those brakes hit as hard as a disc brake, especially for kids that are like first starting out.
Yeah, and actually, that just totally brought something up to mind for me. Is that like upgrading to a hydraulic disc brake is like kind of actually an easier move for an upgrade, as far as like, because like where I have my brakes now, I had to figure out how that to make them hit like that, because not every bike is going to be the same like recipe, brake recipe.
No,
You know what I'm saying? Like, and with the disc brakes, it's like the hydraulic upgrades is, I mean, that's like the same recipe every time. You
yeah,
know, like hell easy.
it's
Um,
really consistent. And every brand, like, there's a couple different brands out there that you can buy as far as hydros are concerned. And every brand, the setup is all basically the same. You don't really have to go through a lot of like, weird configuration changes. Even things like looking up how to do uh, like drain and pump flush your fluids and stuff. It's all the same between the brands. So if you watch one video that teaches you how to do it one way, you're gonna figure out how to do it on the Shimano's or the
right.
Tecros or whatever brand you have. So
Yeah, I think a major plus side of like the V brakes, in my opinion, is the fact that you have the adjustability, like we were talking about being able to run them
yeah,
sharp or run them with that like little squishy zone, or
right.
just have like a medium hit. Um, that's probably like the major thing, and I feel like that's why it, for the majority of like the tricks outside of doing combos, V brakes are more beneficial in my opinion. Like just for the fact that you can kind of tune your brakes into how you're trying to ride. Whereas I feel
Sure.
like the disc brakes, you can get them the hydraulics and like they hit and they're pretty touchy. So with like the kids who like to do combos and stuff, I bet you that shit's great, because like they're trying to hit their brakes as minimal as possible too. I'm assuming just to keep that you know coast going and shit. But
There's a few that like a few things that you can do I think a lot easier on a disc brake. Things like dropping back, like if you want to drop back past 12 and do do some really awesome stuff, you can do those I think a lot easier, just because that action on a hydro is a bit smoother. So it's almost like a cheat mode. I think if you want to get into the drop back game and you want to push it back past 12, that's a fun way to really get into it, because you've got so much sort of smooth, linear, strong brake action that sort of as soon as you tap it, you can start to sort of, you know, really sort of lean into it as you're
right,
tipping back, and it'll give you that really smooth linear power. Whereas like I get a little sketched out if I'm trying to like do 12 on my rim brake. Like I like that first time that I kind of pull it and pull it a little too hard. It's a little harder to like drop it back into that 12 spot and like keep holding it smooth at that point. I find it a little harder anyways.
Hmm.
Whereas like the discs and the hydro was cheat mode. Anytime I wanted to drop back, it was like, oh, easy pap,
Yeah.
you just got to stop and you're good.
Yeah, dude. The V brakes. There's a. I don't know. I've been riding on the V's for a while too. Uh, it's been the only option I've had to ride for a minute. But
Yeah.
God, dude, I love me some V brakes, bro. And like, also another major benefit is that hydraulic rim brakes is not necessarily the way to go in upgrading. So like, you'll never be completely done on a ride, even if you like snap your brake cable. If you're happen to be in somewhere around a bike shop or something, you know what I mean? You could buy a $4 brake cable and be back in business, like
Yeah.
and somebody will have tools on them to get that done.
Yeah.
You know?
I, from that standpoint, like the way I look at it now, I would say like my whole perspective on brakes and what I use them for has changed. So like the reason why I liked the hydros are sort of less the reason why I like hydros and disc brakes now is just because like if I want to keep it where it's at, it's a little bit easier to sort of like keep it at that level that you're looking at. It's not so much work to kind of get it initially set up, but there's just so many like critical failures that can happen mid ride that I think just don't make it for me as worth it. And the simpler sort of mechanical rim brake is just always consistent. Like you said, you can stop by any bike shop, they're gonna have some part that you need to sort of put that thing back together. Whereas a lot of shops, they're not going to work on the hydros right there. You got to have oil if you had a leak and you no longer have pressure, and you've got to try to put oil back in that line. That's going to suck. You got to have a whole toolkit to do it mid ride. So it's to me it's a little bit unrealistic to rock that all the time. Um, but once you get it set up, it's a nice setup. I'm not gonna lie, but I think from a simplistic use standpoint, I do like the rim brakes now, just because you can crash and warp a rim, and that thing will still kind of work, and you'll
Yeah.
still have some breakability.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing, like how the V brakes honk, dude, and this is unfortunate with every single bike that has discs, is that hollow click sound that your pads make inside of the caliper, like when it slips forward or back, like after your pads have worn in a tiny bit, and like
Mm-hmm.
like inside the caliper they like move forward and back like that, just enough to where it echoes like through your spokes to the hoop of your wheel.
Yep.
You know that sound?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's
That
like
was
the
the
I
time.
hated that, dude, on my red line. It was just like as soon as you hear that, it just felt like it made my bike sound and feel so cheap. Like,
Yeah.
damn. Damn.
Yeah. It took me a little bit to realize what was happening when I would hear that sound because
Yeah.
it sounds pretty awful the first time you hear it. You're like, oh crap, what
Yeah.
did I just like break something off of this? Like, what was that? And I mean, it sounds nasty, but
Yeah. So that can be annoying, and especially like when it can get really bad, just like honking brakes, like when they get really bad, because it can happen just as you're throwing the wheel up to tap your brake. It'll like click and set the pad in place. You know what I'm saying? It'll
hmm
be all clung as you
yeah,
pull up, which I don't know. Just felt I should bring that up considering I harped on the honking brakes for V brakes so bad, because
yeah.
that was like my big gripe with the disc, but that usually lets you know that you need to change your pads, I think, too.
There's a few ways that you can kind of avoid having sort of a lot of noise out of the pads, but a lot of it is like you can get noise off your pads if you go out for a ride and it's like raining a little bit and you get a little bit of water on your pads. Like, I mean, that'll
Yeah.
start honking those things. And if you don't clean it off or if you don't rub all of whatever the material is that's on the pad, it'll make noise for a while. Also, cleaning it, if you clean your bike with the wrong material or you get some
Oh.
like some of your oil from your skin or your hands on there, that'll start making noise on those brakes too, which is annoying as heck. Sometimes you just you just got to deal with some of that stuff, and there's no way to really avoid it. And you can't fix it. You can't always fix it mid ride. I mean, sometimes you can like sort of rub some dirt on it, so to speak, and
Right.
literally rub some dirt on it and
Yeah.
fix some of the noise. But a lot of times it takes like sitting with it for a good couple hours and fixing the alignment on that back brake so that
Oh
it
man.
doesn't make all that noise.
One day, everybody will get to the point where they learn how to be brake masters because, dude, I like made the biggest mistake upgrading my V brakes before I went to the Vegas pedal box ride. I talked about this on the video with Rosati, but what a stupid decision that was, bro. Like, dumbass, bro. Brand new fucking parts on my bike that I wheelie before we drove like, I don't know, 9 or 10 hours to Vegas. Idiot. Yeah, it was bad news. Well, I made the best of it and it worked. I still rode and I have video and pictures evidence it. I made it happen. But but I bought some a Paul lever and a set of Paul brake arms, and they were purple. They were hella dope. I was super juiced on them, and then I put them on the night before we were gonna leave, and the brake arms like touched my hookworms. Like they hit the hookworms before my pads, like as the pads were hitting the rim, and I was like,
Oh no.
what's happening? Like, no, no. So, luckily, which is really strange, if you reorganize the spacers and stack them a specific way, it like actually opened up a gap farther to where my brake pads hit before the arms did. However, when the brakes hit,
Oh,
like it was so, I mean, like, dude, a sheet of paper probably barely fit in between there when I'm on my bike and actually on the brakes like hard. It was
yeah.
crazy, but it worked. It worked.
Yeah, definitely don't try new parts before a big ride out, people. That's just not a smart decision.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not the best, but like I said, I happened to make it work. But damn, was that stressful. It was cool though, because that was the first time I met Kyle out in Vegas. Also, first time I ever met Steady Eddie, and he helped me with truing my wheel too. Because dude, it was like, dude, it was down to the point where like it barely cleared enough. We had to true my wheel to get it straighter,
Oh,
so
gee.
that when the brake arms would go in, bro, it wouldn't be like have it
Yeah,
wobbling, you know.
if it's that close where it's like there's that little clearance, that's rough, and that's a hard setup to have to like configure on the spot right before a ride like that. Holy hell.
Bro, funny. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't want to do like a disc brakes are better than V brakes or V brakes are better than disc brakes video, but I just thought it would be a dope topic to talk, do an episode on. I thought you'd be a good dude to do it with. But
Yeah,
ha,
I don't.
ha,
I think it really comes down to like one not being better than the other. It really is mostly just a personal preference thing. I would say my verdict on it is for new riders, you're probably gonna love the power of a disc brake. For more experienced riders, you're gonna love the power of a disc brake.
yeah,
But you're probably also going to be fully capable of rocking the hell out of a rim brake, any style, and being able to make it work because you're going to have the experience of body position, of muscle memory, of just knowing more about where that bike is positioned, keeping it up. So it really just depends on how much work you want to do, what kind of work you like to do. I think too.
yeah, definitely. I think it really boils down to like preference at the end of the day with the brake thing because, like, I hope this video is helpful for people who are like on the fence about maybe up like switching over to hear stuff that maybe you haven't thought about. You know what I mean? Because like, dude, the big
Yeah.
one that you brought up, dude, even for me, like realistically, and I, it only made me think of, like, remember that one kid whose lever broke, but the hydraulic disc brake thing and like all the travel and out of town rides that I did on that bike, bro, like it never, like, knock on wood, but it luckily I never ran into that problem. But damn, yeah, that's like a pretty big risk. I mean, all it takes is to loop out and your handlebars hit the ground and bye
Yeah,
bye.
I was same thing. I was lucky enough to never have that happen on the framed for the amount of time. I mean, I still have the hydro on it and still have the bike now, but I don't ride it as much anymore. But yeah, never had a problem on taking it out, even doing things like turning the bike upside down and flipping it around, and never had pressure issues. Yeah, it was always pretty solid, thankfully. But it is sort of one of those risks that I think you have to at least minorly account for Especially I think in some of the larger ride situations, just because crashing is a little bit more frequent.
Right.
Getting that line caught up is probably going to be a little easier, or overturning your bars and then crimping the line because of that. That's another way you could sort of toast it.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pinch that line.
Yeah.
I'm going back to disc brakes soon.
Are you gonna get that new goon?
Yeah, yeah. So all the team riders are getting one.
Sweet.
I got some other stuff in the works around that too, so you'll see soon. I think.
Right on.
Yeah, 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 yeah. This will come out before that, so y'all see. Well, cool, man. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thanks for jumping on here with me, bro,
Yeah.
and talking brakes with me.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah, it was a
froze.
good time. This was a good conversation, good topic, I think, for a lot of writers out there.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, it took me a little bit to get it done. I've been like smashing on getting content out for the podcast and shit, and um, yeah, I got some cool stuff lined up.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Well, dude, Kyle, thank you again. If you guys haven't already, hit the link in the description below. Go follow his Instagram. Go follow. Actually, excuse me. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. And
Please
hit the notification bell, bro. Turn them post notifications on. He'll be dropping the edits on there.
try to get them out fairly frequently.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, man. I love watching the videos. Definitely keep that shit up. Till next week. Go ride your bikes.
Perfect. Perfect.